When most people hear the phrase retire at 50, they immediately tune out. They think that's unrealistic. That's for people who sold a business. That's not for someone like me. And if you've always planned to retire at 65, the idea can even feel irresponsible. But this isn't a conversation about quitting work at 50. It's not about never earning another dollar. It's definitely not about throwing away a solid plan. When I say you should retire at 50, I'm talking about something very different. I'm talking about retiring the plan that locks you into working until 65, even when you no longer need to. Because what I see over and over again is that people who give themselves the option to retire around 50 end up with more control, better tax outcomes, and far less stress, even if they never actually stop working at that age. And the ones who don't, they often work longer than they need to, not because they want to, but because their plan leaves them no choice. That's what we're really talking about today. Hi, I'm Dan Shevlin. I'm the president of 2020 Financial. I work with people who are typically in their 40s and 50s and early 60s. And one of the most common assumptions I hear is, I'll just work until I'm 65. That's how retirement works. But when we actually run the numbers and look at flexibility, taxes, and risk, something interesting happens. For many people, planning to retire at 50, at least on paper, creates a stronger, more flexible plan, even if they ultimately keep working. So today I want to explain why planning for 50 instead of 65 often leads to a better outcome, and why this approach is really about control, not early exit. Before we dive in, make sure to like the video and subscribe, especially if retirement timing is something you've been questioning and you want to talk through what this could look like for your situation. You can book a call with me using the link in the description. Part 1. Retiring at 50 is about optionality, not quitting. Let's clear something up right away. Retiring at 50 does not mean stopping all income, never working again, living off savings immediately. What it does mean is this: your financial life no longer depends on your job. That's a huge difference. When work becomes optional instead of mandatory, everything changes. You negotiate differently, you feel less pressure, and you make better decisions. Even if you keep working, you're doing it on your terms. That's the real goal. Part 2. Planning for 65 quietly forces you to work longer. Most people don't realize this, but planning for 65 often creates a trap. Here's how. When your plan assumes full income until 65, benefits starting at 65, withdrawals beginning later, you remove flexibility. So if something changes at 55 or 58, burnout, health, layoffs, family needs, the plan starts to strain. Instead of choosing to work, you're forced to. Planning for 50 builds slack into the system. Planning for 65 tightens it. Part 3. Your 50s are the most valuable years you'll have. From a planning perspective, your 50s are incredibly powerful. Why? Because you still have strong earning potential, time to adjust strategy, flexibility before forced withdrawals. Once you reach your 60s, options narrow, taxes become harder to manage, income decisions become more permanent, and mistakes are tougher to undo. Retiring on paper at 50 forces you to use your most valuable years intentionally instead of drifting through them. Part 4. Tax control is better when you plan earlier. One of the biggest advantages of targeting 50 is tax control. When people wait and only think about retirement at 65, taxes often become reactive. Income stacks up later. Withdrawals get larger, tax brackets become harder to manage. Planning earlier allows income to be shaped, not just accepted. That doesn't mean paying more taxes sooner. It means avoiding unnecessary tax later. Part 5. Health and energy are financial assets. This part rarely gets talked about, but it matters. Your health and energy in your 50s are different from your late 60s. If your plan assumes you'll work until 65 just because you can, you're ignoring the cost of doing so. Stress compounds, energy declines, options narrow, and a plan that allows retirement at 50 doesn't mean you must stop working. It means you don't have to sacrifice your best years to meet a calendar date. Part 6. Early flexibility reduces risk. Planning for 50 also improves your risk management. If markets struggle near traditional retirement age, people who must retire at 65 feel trapped. People who could have retired earlier or step back gradually have options. They can adjust their income timing, reduce pressure on portfolios, and avoid emotional decisions. Flexibility is one of the most powerful risk management tools there is. Part 7. Work feels different when you don't need it. Here's something I see often. People who no longer need their job frequently do their best work. Fear is gone. They're more selective. They protect their time. They work because they want to, not because they're counting years. Retiring at 50 doesn't end your career. It often improves it. Part 8, the biggest misunderstanding about retirement age. The biggest misunderstanding I see when it comes to retirement age is the belief that retirement happens on a specific birthday. 62, 65, 70. Those numbers feel official, so people build their entire plan around them. But retirement isn't a date. It's a financial condition. It's the point where your lifestyle no longer depends on your paycheck. When you look at retirement that way, the question changes. Instead of asking, when do I stop working? You start asking, when do I stop needing to work? That difference matters. A plan built around a date assumes everything goes according to schedule. Your job stays secure, your health cooperates, the markets behave. A plan built around a financial condition assumes life will change, and that assumption creates resilience. Planning to retire at 50 forces you to build that resilience earlier, pushes you to create income flexibility. It pushes you to manage taxes proactively, and it pushes you to reduce dependence on any single outcome going perfectly. None of this means you have to stop working at 50. Many people who reach that point choose to keep working, just differently. They reduce their hours, they change roles, they become more selective. Work becomes optional, not required. And that changes how retirement actually feels. Instead of counting years, you measure freedom. Instead of watching the calendar, you focus on control. That's why planning for 50, even if you never use it, consistently leads to better outcomes than locking in everything into age 65. So when I say you should retire at 50, even if you plan for 65, I'm not telling you to walk away from work. I'm telling you to walk away from a plan that leaves you with no choices. A plan that gives you options to retire earlier almost always leads to better decisions, longer long-term stress, more control over your taxes, and greater confidence. And here's the irony. Most people who plan this way don't actually stop working at 50. They just stop worrying. And that's when retirement planning starts working the way it's supposed to. If this changed how you think about retirement timing, like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment. And if you want to see what retiring at 50 on paper could look like for you, even if you plan to keep working, you can book a call with me using the link in the description. No pressure, no sales pitch, just a clear conversation about flexibility, taxes, and control, and how to build a plan that works on your timeline, not just the calendar.